Hey guys. Tonight, we're headed somewhere vast, ancient, and unforgiving. We're traveling back to Ming Dynasty China, to the endless mountains where stone meets sky, where your hands will crack and bleed as you carry brick after brick up impossible slopes. This is the story of one day in your life as a laborer on the Great Wall of China. If you enjoy this kind of thing, maybe give it a like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I always love hearing from you all across the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum, and settle in. Let's drift back in time. You wake to the sound of boots in dirt. Not your own boots. The guards' boots, heavy leather soles grinding against stones and dust as they walk between the sleeping bodies. The air is thin here in the mountains, cold in that way that seeps through your worn cotton jacket and settles in your bones. Your breath comes out in small white puffs that disappear almost immediately in the pre-dawn darkness. You don't move yet. Your body knows better. You've learned to lie still in these first moments, letting consciousness return slowly to your aching limbs. Your back is stiff against the hard ground where you've slept on a thin straw mat. The mat does little to cushion you from the rocky earth beneath, and you can feel every stone that pressed into your spine through the night. Your hands rest on your chest, and even in sleep they've curled into the shape they hold all day long. The shape of carrying. Your fingers are permanently curved as if gripping the rough edges of bricks, as if your body has forgotten any other position. The calluses on your palms are thick now, built up over months of this work. They crack in the dry mountain air, deep fissures that sometimes bleed but mostly just ache with a dull, constant throb. The sound of boots grows closer. You know this rhythm. You know exactly how long you have before the voice will come, harsh and commanding, telling you all to rise. So you use these last moments to take inventory of your body, to assess the damage from yesterday's work. Your shoulders burn. They always burn now. The constant lifting, the endless carrying of bricks up steep paths, has carved a permanent fire into the muscles there. Your lower back pulses with that familiar deep ache, the kind that radiates down into your legs and makes every step feel like you're walking through thick mud. But your legs still work. Your arms still lift. Your hands still grip. This is what matters. This is what keeps you alive. A cough echoes across the sleeping area, followed by another. Someone's chest rattles as they try to clear their lungs of the dust that settles there each day. The dust is everywhere here. It coats your skin, fills your nose, works its way between your teeth. You've grown used to the taste of it, earthy and bitter, like chewing on the mountain itself. The boots stop near your head. You can sense the guard standing there, can smell the leather and metal of his equipment. You keep your breathing steady, even as if you're still asleep. But you're ready. Your muscles are already tensing, preparing for the day ahead. The voice comes sharp and loud in the quiet morning air. Rise. The word cuts through the stillness like a blade. Around you, bodies begin to stir. The sound of groaning, of joints creaking as men push themselves up from their mats. Someone nearby spits into the dirt, clearing his throat of the night's accumulation. You sit up slowly. The cold air hits your face fully now, sharp and clean. The sky above is still dark, but there's a faint lightening along the eastern edge of the mountains. Dawn is still an hour away, but your day has begun. Your bare feet touch the cold ground. The earth is hard-packed dirt mixed with small stones that dig into the soles of your feet. You've developed thick skin there too, layers of callus that protect you from the worst of it. But you still feel every pebble, every uneven surface. You stand, and your body protests. Your knees pop. Your back sends a sharp reminder of yesterday's work. But you stand anyway, because you must. Because there is no choice here except to stand and work and survive another day. Around you, other men are rising too. Shadows in the dim light, moving slowly, carefully. Everyone here moves carefully in the morning. Quick movements bring sharp pains, remind you too suddenly of what your body has endured. Better to move like water, flowing gradually into wakefulness, into readiness for what lies ahead. You roll up your sleeping mat. The straw inside has compressed over months of use, offering less cushioning each night. But you roll it carefully anyway, tie it with the thin rope that keeps it bundled. This mat is one of your few possessions here, and you treat it with the respect of something precious. The air carries the scent of wood smoke. Somewhere, the cooks have started a fire for the morning meal. The smell makes your stomach clench with hunger, but you know the wait will be long. First comes the work assignment. First comes the walk to your section of the wall. The food will come later, when you've earned it with sweat and labor. You pull on your cloth shoes, worn thin at the soles but still holding together. The fabric is rough against your feet, but it's protection from the rocky ground and the sharp edges of broken bricks that litter the construction areas. You tie the shoes tightly, knowing they'll need to stay secure through hours of climbing and carrying. The other men around you are doing the same, getting ready in silence. There's little talk in the morning. Everyone is conserving their energy, holding on to whatever strength they have for the day ahead. Words are a luxury you can't afford when every breath needs to power your muscles through the coming hours. You join the line that's forming. A long row of men, all dressed in similar worn clothing, all carrying the same weight of exhaustion and resignation. The guards move along the line, counting heads, making sure no one has tried to slip away in the night. As if there's anywhere to go in these mountains. As if your body could carry you far enough to matter. The guard reaches you, looks at your face briefly, moves on. You're just a number to him. A unit of labor. Your name doesn't matter here. Your story doesn't matter. Only your ability to lift and carry and build. The line begins to move. Slowly, carefully, following a worn path that leads toward the section of wall where you'll spend your day. Your feet know this path by heart now. Every stone, every rut, every place where the ground is uneven. You could walk it in complete darkness, guided by muscle memory and the accumulated wisdom of repetition. The man in front of you limps slightly. An old injury, maybe from a fall while carrying bricks, maybe from the simple accumulation of stress on joints and bones. You all have injuries here. Small ones that never quite heal, that remind you of their presence with every step. The sky continues to lighten as you walk. The mountains around you begin to take shape in the gray dawn light. Harsh, rocky slopes covered in sparse vegetation. The kind of landscape that seems designed to break human ambition. But here you are anyway, adding your small portion to this massive wall that snakes across the ridgelines like a stone river. Your section comes into view as you round a bend in the path. A stretch of wall perhaps 200 paces long, where yesterday's work ended and today's will begin. The structure rises from the mountain ridge, following the natural contours of the land but imposing human order on the chaos of stone and earth. You can see the places where work stopped yesterday. Courses of brick that end abruptly. Piles of materials waiting to be lifted into place. The wooden scaffolding that allows workers to reach the higher sections. Rough-hewn planks lashed together with rope. The sight of it settles in your chest like a weight. Not despair, exactly. You've moved past despair. This is something more like acceptance. This wall will be built. You will build it, brick by brick, stone by stone, until your body can no longer perform the work or until the wall reaches its intended end. Whichever comes first. The guards direct you to your starting position. Today you'll be working on the eastern section, where the wall curves to follow a particularly challenging slope. The angle makes every step treacherous, every load of bricks a test of balance and endurance. You walk to the pile of bricks that will be your burden for the next several hours. Each brick weighs perhaps 10 pounds, made of fired clay that's been shaped and hardened in kilns whose smoke you can sometimes see rising from valleys below. The bricks are rough to the touch, with edges that catch and scrape your skin. You lift your first load. 4 bricks, stacked carefully so they won't shift as you carry them. The weight settles into your arms, pulls at your shoulders, reminds your body of what it will endure today. You adjust your grip, find the balance point that will let you carry this load up the steep path to where it needs to go. The path to the wall is narrow, cut into the mountainside by the passage of countless feet. The ground is uneven, made treacherous by loose stones and the occasional patch of soft earth that gives way under your weight. You place each foot carefully, testing the ground before committing your full weight. The man ahead of you moves at the same steady pace you've all learned. Not fast enough to waste energy, not slow enough to draw attention from the guards. A rhythm that can be sustained hour after hour, that preserves strength while still accomplishing the work that must be done. Your breathing deepens as you climb. The thin mountain air makes every breath feel insufficient, as if you can never quite fill your lungs completely. Your heart beats harder, pumping blood to muscles that are already beginning to burn with the effort of carrying this weight up this slope. Sweat begins to gather on your forehead despite the cool morning air. Your body knows this work now, anticipates the heat that will build as the day progresses. The sweat will help cool you when the sun rises higher, but for now it just adds to the discomfort, trickling down your face and stinging your eyes. You reach the section of wall where you'll deposit this load. The structure rises above you, already taller than a man in most places. The faces of the stones are roughly dressed, fitted together with mortar made from lime and rice paste. The construction is solid, built to last centuries, built to withstand weather and time and the weight of its own ambition. You set your bricks down carefully in the designated area. Your arms shake slightly as you release the weight, muscles trembling with the relief of no longer carrying that burden. But the relief is temporary. You know that in moments you'll be walking back down the path to collect another load. The morning light is stronger now, revealing details that were hidden in the pre-dawn darkness. You can see the faces of the other workers, drawn and tired but determined. You can see the exact extent of yesterday's progress, marked by the line where finished work meets the raw materials that await placement. A supervisor approaches, a man whose job is to ensure that the work proceeds at the required pace. He examines the section where you'll be working today, points to specific areas where bricks must be laid. His instructions are brief, practical. He doesn't waste words on encouragement or explanation. The work speaks for itself. You turn and begin the walk back down the path to collect your next load. Your legs feel loose and light without the weight of bricks, but you know this feeling won't last. Each trip up the slope will be a little harder than the last, as fatigue accumulates in your muscles and the sun climbs higher in the sky. The rhythm begins in earnest now. Load, carry, climb, deposit, return. Over and over, with only brief pauses to catch your breath or adjust your grip. This is the fundamental pattern of your day. the basic unit of work from which everything else is built. By your fourth trip up the slope, your breathing has settled into the deep, steady pattern that will carry you through the morning. Your muscles have warmed and loosened, accepting the work that lies ahead. The initial stiffness of waking has been replaced by the fluid, mechanical motion of labor. The sun clears the eastern mountains, sending long shadows across the construction site. The light is golden and beautiful, but you have little time to appreciate it. Beauty is a luxury for people who aren't carrying 40 pounds of bricks up a mountainside. Your hands are beginning to show the first signs of the day's work. The rough surfaces of the bricks scrape against your palms, wearing away the top layer of callus and exposing the tender skin beneath. By evening, your hands will be raw and bleeding in places, but for now they still grip securely. The other workers move around you in their own rhythms, each man carrying his own burden at his own pace. There's little conversation. The work requires too much breath, demands too much attention to footing and balance. Words are saved for the brief rest periods, and even then they're often unnecessary. A new load settles into your arms. This time 5 bricks instead of 4. Your body has warmed enough to handle the extra weight, and you know that pushing yourself slightly harder now will pay dividends later when the heat becomes oppressive. The climb feels familiar now, your feet finding the secure spots on the path automatically. Your breathing matches the rhythm of your steps, inhaling on the level portions, exhaling as you push up the steeper grades. This coordination of breath and movement is something you've learned through necessity, a small efficiency that makes the work marginally more bearable. At the wall, you notice that progress is being made. The section that was chest-high yesterday is now above your head in places. The accumulated work of dozens of men, thousands of individual brick placements, adding up to something substantial. It's easy to lose sight of this progress when you're focused on each individual load, but stepping back reveals the slow, steady advance of construction. You set down your bricks and pause for a moment to wipe the sweat from your forehead. The sun is warming the air now, and you can feel the day's heat beginning to build. The cool morning air that made you shiver when you first woke is already becoming a memory. The walk back down the path gives you a few moments to let your arms rest. You flex your fingers, trying to work out the stiffness that comes from gripping rough surfaces for extended periods. Your shoulders roll back, attempting to ease the tension that builds there from carrying weight. The pile of bricks seems no smaller despite your efforts. If anything, it appears to have grown as other workers have added to it from fresh deliveries. This is how the work always feels here. No matter how much you accomplish, there's always more waiting. The wall stretches far beyond what you can see, and every section requires the same patient, grinding labor. Your next load includes a brick that's cracked along one edge. You consider replacing it with a better one, but decide the crack isn't severe enough to compromise the structure. These small decisions become part of the rhythm of work, constantly evaluating, choosing, adapting to the materials at hand. The path up the slope feels steeper now. Your legs are beginning to feel the accumulated effort of multiple trips. The burn in your thigh muscles is more pronounced, and you have to pay closer attention to your footing as fatigue makes you slightly less sure of each step. But your body is also finding its efficiency. The movements become more automatic, requiring less conscious thought. Your muscles learn the exact angles and tensions needed for this specific task. This is how human beings adapt to repetitive work, by developing a kind of physical intelligence that operates below the level of awareness. The sun climbs higher, and with it comes the first real heat of the day. You can feel it on your back and shoulders, adding another layer of stress to work that was already challenging. Sweat begins to flow more freely, soaking into your cotton shirt and leaving salt stains on the fabric. You reach the wall and deposit your load, then pause to drink from the small water container you carry. The water is warm and has a metallic taste from the container, but it's wet and that's what matters. You ration it carefully, knowing you'll need it to last until the midday break. The mortar crew is working near your section now, mixing lime and rice paste with water to create the binding agent that will hold the bricks in place. The mixture has a sharp, alkaline smell that catches in your throat. Some of the mortar splashes onto your leg, and you brush it off quickly before it can harden and stick to your clothes. Back down the path for another load. Your breathing is deeper now, working harder to supply oxygen to muscles that are beginning to burn with sustained effort. The thin mountain air makes every breath feel inadequate, as if you're always slightly out of breath no matter how deeply you inhale. The routine continues. Load, carry, climb, deposit, return. Each cycle takes perhaps 10 minutes, depending on the size of the load and the difficulty of the climb. In an hour, you complete 6 cycles. In a morning, perhaps 25 or 30. Each one a small victory of endurance over the weight of stone and the pull of gravity. Your hands are starting to show more serious wear now. The constant friction of rough brick surfaces against your palms has worn through the calluses in several places. Small beads of blood appear where the skin has worn completely away. You wipe them on your pants and continue working. The guards patrol the work area regularly, observing the pace of work and occasionally calling out instructions or corrections. They carry staves and wear better clothing than the workers, marking their higher status in this hierarchy of labor. You avoid eye contact with them, keeping your attention focused on the work at hand. A commotion near the scaffolding draws your attention briefly. One of the workers has stumbled while carrying bricks up the wooden framework, and several bricks have fallen. The man appears unhurt, but the lost bricks represent wasted effort, and the supervisor approaches with obvious displeasure. You turn your attention back to your own work. Other people's problems are beyond your control, and focusing on them only distracts from the task at hand. In this place, survival depends on maintaining focus on what you can control, which is primarily your own movement and effort. The sun is well up now, and the day is becoming genuinely hot. Sweat runs down your face and into your eyes, stinging and blurring your vision. You blink it away and continue climbing, your feet finding purchase on the rocky path through habit more than sight. Your shirt is soaked through with sweat, clinging to your skin uncomfortably. But removing it would expose your shoulders and back to the direct sun, which would bring its own problems. You endure the discomfort and keep working. The next load feels heavier than usual, though you know the bricks weigh the same as they always do. This is fatigue talking, your muscles beginning to protest the accumulated strain. You adjust your grip and climb anyway, because there's no choice but to climb. At the wall, you notice that your section is making real progress. The course of bricks you're working on is nearly complete, and soon you'll be starting on the next level up. This brings a small sense of satisfaction, a marker of achievement in work that can otherwise feel endless. The walk back down the path gives you a chance to observe the broader construction effort. Workers spread across several hundred yards of wall, each focused on their own small section but all contributing to the larger project. From this perspective, you can see how individual effort aggregates into something massive and enduring. Your water container is now half empty, and you're not yet halfway through the morning's work. You'll need to ration more carefully, taking smaller sips and trying to make each one count. Dehydration is a constant threat here, especially as the day grows hotter. Another load, another climb. Your legs are definitely feeling the strain now, each step requiring more conscious effort. The muscles in your calves burn constantly, and your thighs tremble slightly under the weight of the bricks and the challenge of the slope. But you've found a rhythm that works, a pace that balances effort with endurance. Too fast and you'll exhaust yourself before the day is half done. Too slow and you'll draw unwanted attention from the supervisors. The right pace is something you feel rather than calculate, a physical intuition developed through weeks of this work. The heat continues to build. What started as a pleasant warming of the cool morning air has become genuinely oppressive. The sun beats down on your back and shoulders, adding its weight to the burden you already carry. Sweat flows freely now, and you can taste salt on your lips. Your hands are starting to slip slightly on the bricks as sweat combines with blood from the worn places on your palms. You have to grip more tightly to maintain control, which increases the pressure on already damaged skin. It's a cycle that will only get worse as the day progresses. At the wall, you pause longer than usual before picking up your next load. The brief rest helps, but you know that too much rest will make it harder to resume the work. Better to keep moving, to maintain the momentum that carries you through the grinding repetition of labor. The mortar crew is working closer to your area now, and you can smell the lime more strongly. The alkaline scent is sharp and chemical, cutting through the earthier smells of dust and sweat that dominate the work site. Some of the workers in the mortar crew have white stains on their clothes and hands from the lime, giving them a ghostly appearance. Back down the path, your legs feeling loose and uncertain without the weight of bricks to anchor them. This is a strange aspect of the work, how your body adapts to carrying weight, to the point where being unloaded feels almost unnatural. The pile of bricks has indeed grown smaller despite the constant additions. The work of many men over several hours has made a visible dent in the supply. This gives you a sense of shared accomplishment, even though the interaction with your fellow workers is minimal. Your next load includes a brick that's noticeably heavier than the others. Probably fired at a higher temperature, making it denser and more durable but also more difficult to carry. You position it at the bottom of your stack so its weight is distributed more evenly across your arms. The climb up the slope is becoming more of a struggle now. Your breathing is labored, and you have to pause occasionally to catch your breath. The thin air and increasing heat combine to make every step feel like a significant effort. Sweat drips from your forehead onto the bricks you're carrying, leaving dark spots on the clay surfaces. The salt in your sweat stings the raw places on your hands, adding another layer of discomfort to work that was already challenging. At the wall, you notice that several workers have developed a technique for stacking their loads more efficiently at the deposit site. You observe their method and modify your own approach, finding a small improvement that makes the work marginally easier. The sun is now high enough to shine directly into the work area, eliminating the shadows that provided some relief earlier in the morning. The heat reflects off the stone surfaces of the wall, creating an environment that feels like the inside of an oven. Your shirt is now completely saturated with sweat, offering no absorption for the moisture that continues to pour from your skin. Drops of sweat fall from your chin and elbows, leaving a trail behind you as you walk. The return trip down the path feels longer now, as if the distance has somehow increased. This is exhaustion playing tricks with your perception, making familiar distances seem greater and familiar weights seem heavier. Another load, and you notice that your hands are shaking slightly as you grip the bricks. Not from fear or nervousness, but from the accumulated strain on muscles and tendons that have been working steadily for hours. You tighten your grip and continue. The climb is definitely harder now. Your legs feel heavy and uncertain, and you have to watch your footing more carefully as fatigue affects your balance and coordination. The risk of falling increases as tiredness makes you less sure of each step. Halfway up the slope, you have to stop and rest for a moment. The weight of the bricks feels crushing, and your breathing is rapid and shallow. You set the load down briefly, just long enough to take several deep breaths and wipe the sweat from your eyes. A guard notices your pause and approaches. His expression is stern, and you know that extended breaks are not permitted. You lift your load quickly and resume climbing, ignoring the protest from muscles that haven't fully recovered. At the wall, the heat is almost unbearable. The stone surfaces are now hot to the touch, and the air shimmers with heat rising from the sun-baked ground. You deposit your bricks quickly and retreat to whatever shade you can find. Your water container is now nearly empty, and you're still hours away from the midday break when water will be replenished. You take the smallest possible sip, just enough to wet your mouth and throat, and save the rest for when you absolutely need it. The walk back down is torture now. Without the weight of bricks, your body wants to rest, but the rhythm of work demands that you keep moving. Your legs feel rubbery and unreliable, and you have to concentrate on each step to avoid stumbling. At the brick pile, you notice that several other workers are showing signs of serious fatigue. One man sits heavily on the ground while loading his bricks, taking longer than usual to prepare his carry. Another moves with the careful, deliberate motions of someone whose body is near its limits. Your next load feels impossibly heavy. The same bricks that were manageable this morning now seem to weigh twice what they did before. Your arms shake as you lift them, and you have to adjust your grip several times to find a position that feels secure. The climb up the slope is now a battle of will against physics. Each step requires conscious decision and effort. Your breathing is ragged and desperate, and sweat pours from your skin in streams. The heat from the sun feels like a physical weight pressing down on your shoulders. You have to stop twice on the way up, setting your load down and resting with your hands on your knees while you gasp for breath. Each time, you glance around nervously for guards, knowing that too much rest will bring unwanted attention. At the wall, you barely manage to deposit your bricks before collapsing into whatever shade you can find. Your hands are shaking uncontrollably now, and dark spots dance at the edges of your vision. The heat is overwhelming, seeming to come from all directions at once. You take another small sip of water, and it tastes like salvation. The liquid soothes your parched throat and provides a moment's relief from the crushing heat. But you know it's not enough, and you know the water won't last much longer. The walk back down the path is a nightmare of exhaustion and heat. Your legs feel disconnected from your body, responding slowly to your commands. You stumble twice, catching yourself each time but using precious energy to maintain balance. Other workers are struggling too. You can see it in their movements, the way they pause longer between loads, the way they move with the careful deliberation of people near collapse. But everyone keeps working, because stopping means punishment, and punishment here can mean death. At the brick pile, you sit down hard, your legs simply refusing to support your weight any longer. You know you should be loading your next carry, but your body won't respond. For a moment, You just sit and breathe, watching the sweat drip from your face onto the dusty ground. A supervisor approaches, and you force yourself to stand and begin loading bricks. Your movements are slow and clumsy, but you're moving, and that seems to satisfy him. He watches for a moment, then moves on to observe other workers. This load feels like carrying stones made of lead. Your arms can barely support the weight, and your grip on the rough surfaces is tenuous at best. But you lift them anyway, because that's what the work requires, and the work is all that matters here. The climb up the slope is agony now. Each step is a separate battle, each breath a conscious effort. The heat seems to press against you from all sides, making the air feel thick and heavy. Sweat burns your eyes and makes the rough path seem to shimmer and dance. You have to stop 3 times on this climb, each pause longer than the last. Your vision blurs and clears, as your body struggles to cope with heat and exhaustion. The weight of the bricks feels crushing, as if you're carrying pieces of the mountain itself. At the wall, you deposit your load with hands that can barely maintain their grip. Your arms hang loose at your sides, trembling with exhaustion. The shade provides some relief, but the heat seems to have soaked into your bones, radiating from inside your body as well as pressing from outside. Your water container is nearly empty now, perhaps one more small sip remaining. You save it, knowing that the next hour will be even harder than this one has been. The sun continues to climb, and with it the temperature that makes this work almost unbearable. But then, mercifully, you hear the sound you've been waiting for. A horn blown by one of the guards, signaling the midday break. The sound echoes off the mountain walls, and you feel a wave of relief wash over your exhausted body. All around the worksite, men are setting down their loads and moving toward the shade structures that have been erected for meal breaks. The movement is slow and careful, as bodies pushed to their limits navigate the transition from work to rest. You walk slowly toward the designated rest area, your legs unsteady but still functioning. The path seems longer than usual, but eventually you reach the blessed shade of a canvas shelter stretched between wooden poles. You sink to the ground with profound gratitude, your back against a stone that provides support for your exhausted body. Around you, other workers are doing the same, all moving with the careful deliberation of people whose bodies have been pushed to their limits. The shade is a revelation after hours in the direct sun. The temperature drops noticeably, and you can feel your body beginning to cool as sweat evaporates in the slightly moving air. Your breathing begins to slow and deepen, no longer the desperate gasping of extreme exertion. A water bearer appears with large ceramic jugs, and you drink deeply for the first time in hours. The water is warm and tastes of clay, but it's the most wonderful thing you've ever experienced. You feel it flowing through your body, beginning the slow process of rehydrating tissues that have been drained by heat and effort. Food appears. Bowls of millet porridge with small pieces of dried vegetables mixed in. The meal is simple and plain, but after hours of burning calories in the heat, it tastes extraordinary. You eat slowly, savoring each spoonful, feeling strength begin to return to your depleted body. The other workers eat in relative silence, too tired for much conversation. Occasionally someone will grunt or sigh, or make a brief comment about the heat or the work, but mostly there's just the sound of eating and breathing and bodies settling into rest. You notice that several men bear the same marks of the morning's work that you do. Hands stained with blood from worn calluses, shirts soaked with sweat and stained with salt, faces reddened and drawn with exhaustion. This shared suffering creates a bond of understanding that needs no words. The break lasts perhaps 30 minutes, long enough for bodies to cool and for the simple meal to provide some restoration. But not long enough for complete recovery. That will have to wait for evening, if it comes at all. Too soon, the horn sounds again, signaling the return to work. Bodies that had begun to relax must now prepare for another session of carrying and climbing in heat that has only grown more intense during the break. You stand slowly, testing your legs and finding them still functional though far from strong. The brief rest has helped, but you can feel that the afternoon will be even harder than the morning was. The sun is higher now, the heat more direct and unrelenting. The walk back to the work area feels like a march toward execution. Your body knows what awaits it, and every muscle protests the return to labor. But you walk anyway, because that's what everyone does here. You endure because endurance is the only option. At the brick pile, you load your first afternoon carry with hands that still shake slightly from exhaustion. The bricks feel no lighter than they did before the break, and you know that as the afternoon progresses, they'll feel even heavier. The first climb of the afternoon is brutal. Your body, which had begun to cool and relax during the break, rebels against the return to extreme effort. Your breathing becomes labored almost immediately, and sweat begins to flow again before you've climbed 50 paces. But gradually, reluctantly, your body remembers the rhythm of work. Your muscles warm again, your breathing finds its pattern, and the mechanical routine of carrying resumes. It's harder now, much harder, but it's still possible. The heat in the afternoon is like nothing you experienced in the morning. The sun is directly overhead, beating down with an intensity that seems designed to crush human ambition. The stone surfaces of the wall are too hot to touch comfortably, and the air itself seems to burn your lungs as you breathe. Your water, replenished during the break, disappears alarmingly quickly. Each sip provides only momentary relief before the heat and exertion demand more. You try to ration it, but your body's need for fluid is overwhelming. The other workers are struggling too, even more obviously than they were in the morning. You see men stumbling under loads that would have been manageable hours earlier. You see hands shaking as they grip bricks, legs trembling with the effort of climbing the rocky path. But the work continues, load after load, climb after climb, the patient accumulation of bricks that will become wall, that will become part of something vast and enduring. Each individual effort seems insignificant, but collectively they represent something monumental. Your hands are in terrible condition now. The combination of rough brick surfaces, sweat, and repeated gripping has worn through skin and callus alike. Blood stains the bricks you carry, leaving dark smears on the clay surfaces. The pain in your hands is constant now, a burning, stinging sensation that accompanies every grip and every release. But your hands still work, still grip, still carry. Pain is something you can endure as long as function remains. The heat continues to intensify as the afternoon progresses. What seemed unbearable an hour ago now seems almost mild compared to the furnace-like conditions that develop as the sun reaches its peak. The air shimmers with heat waves, and the stone surfaces of the wall are almost too hot to approach. You find yourself moving more and more slowly, not by choice but because your body simply cannot maintain the pace of the morning. Each step up the slope requires more time, more effort, more conscious will to overcome the resistance of exhausted muscles. The other workers are moving slowly too, creating a kind of collective rhythm that's different from the morning's pace. Everyone is struggling, everyone is near their limits, and unconsciously the group has adjusted to a sustainable speed. The supervisors notice the slower pace, and their presence becomes more obvious. They walk among the workers more frequently, watching for signs of malingering or collapse. Their staves tap impatiently against their legs as they observe the grinding progress of the afternoon's work. You complete another climb and deposit your load, then stand in whatever shade you can find, breathing heavily and trying to cool your overheated body. The stone surface of the wall radiates heat like a giant oven, making even the shaded areas uncomfortably warm. Your water container is half empty again, and the afternoon sun shows no mercy. You tilt the vessel to your lips and allow yourself another small sip, feeling the warm liquid coat your parched throat. The metal taste of the container mingles with the salt from your own sweat, creating a flavor that speaks of desperation and endurance. The walk back down the path feels like descending into an furnace. Heat rises from the rocky ground in visible waves, distorting your view of the brick pile below. Your legs move automatically now, guided more by habit than conscious thought. Each step sends small shocks of pain up through your knees and into your lower back, reminders of the morning's accumulated damage. At the brick pile, you pause longer than you should, your body simply refusing to bend immediately to the task of loading another carry. The bricks seem to radiate heat of their own, as if they've absorbed every ray of sunlight that has touched them since dawn. When you finally force yourself to lift them, the clay surfaces burn against your torn palms. This load feels impossibly heavy. Your arms shake as you adjust the bricks, trying to find a grip that won't cause the rough edges to dig too deeply into your wounded hands. The weight settles into your shoulders like a yoke designed specifically to break your spirit. The climb begins, and within 20 steps you know this will be the hardest ascent yet. Your breathing becomes labored immediately, your heart hammering against your ribs as it struggles to pump blood through a body that's dangerously overheated. Sweat pours from every pore, soaking your clothes until they cling to your skin like wet rags. Halfway up the slope, your vision begins to darken at the edges. You stop, setting the bricks down carefully, and put your hands on your knees while you gasp for air. The world tilts slightly, and you have to concentrate on staying upright. Behind you, another worker stumbles past, his own load wavering dangerously as he fights to maintain balance. A guard appears beside you, his voice cutting through the haze of exhaustion. Move along. The words are simple, but they carry the weight of absolute authority. You lift your bricks again, though your arms protest with sharp spasms of pain. The guard watches until you resume climbing, then moves on to observe other struggling workers. The final portion of the climb passes in a blur of heat and determination. Your feet find the path through muscle memory while your conscious mind retreats somewhere deep inside, away from the immediate reality of pain and exhaustion. This is how you survive these moments, by disconnecting from the present and simply allowing your body to perform the motions it has learned. At the wall, you deposit your bricks with hands that can barely maintain their grip. The stone surface radiates heat that seems to penetrate your bones. You retreat to a narrow strip of shade, pressing your back against the cooler stone and closing your eyes against the brilliant glare of the afternoon sun. Around you, other workers move like ghosts in the shimmering heat. Their movements have become mechanical, stripped of any unnecessary motion. Everyone has found their own way to endure, their own method of preserving just enough strength to continue. Your water container feels lighter each time you lift it. The afternoon heat seems to evaporate the liquid even as you carry it, and you know that rationing will become even more critical as the day progresses. Each sip must be calculated, balanced against future need and present desperation. The return journey to the brick pile takes longer now. Your legs feel disconnected from your body, responding sluggishly to commands from a brain that itself feels wrapped in cotton. The heat creates strange mirages on the path, making distances seem to shift and waver. Other workers have begun to fall behind the expected pace. You see men sitting heavily beside their loads, taking longer and longer breaks between carries. A few have stopped working entirely, overcome by heat and exhaustion, and you watch as guards approach them with obvious displeasure. At the brick pile, you notice that your movements have become painfully slow. What once required seconds now takes minutes. Your hands shake as you try to arrange the bricks in a stable configuration, and twice you have to restart when the load shifts and threatens to fall. The bricks themselves seem to have absorbed the day's heat and now radiate it back like small ovens. Touching them is like handling stones pulled from a fire. Your palms, already raw and bleeding, now face the additional torment of burned skin layered over the existing wounds. This carry includes 6 bricks instead of your usual 4 or 5. You're not sure why you've added the extra weight, perhaps some stubborn part of your mind insisting on maintaining standards even as your body fails. The decision proves costly as you begin the climb and immediately feel the additional burden in every muscle. Your breathing becomes desperate within the first 100 paces. The thin mountain air, superheated by the sun, feels insufficient no matter how deeply you inhale. Your lungs work frantically, but each breath seems to provide less oxygen than the last. The path itself has become treacherous. Heat-loosened stones shift under your feet, and patches of earth that were solid in the morning have turned to dust that provides no purchase. You stumble twice, catching yourself each time but using precious energy to maintain balance. A third of the way up the slope, you have to stop. The world spins around you, and dark spots dance across your vision. You set down the bricks and bend forward, hands on your knees, trying to force air into lungs that feel like they're on fire. The brief rest helps marginally, but when you lift the bricks again, they seem to have gained weight during the pause. Your arms tremble with the effort of supporting them, and you have to readjust your grip several times before finding positions that feel secure. The middle section of the climb passes in a haze of determination and near collapse. Each step requires a conscious decision to continue, a small victory of will over the body's increasingly urgent demands for rest. Your vision tunnels until you can see only the few feet of path directly in front of you. Near the top, you encounter another worker who has stopped completely. He sits beside his load of bricks, staring blankly at the ground. His breathing is rapid and shallow, and his skin has taken on an alarming grayish pallor. You want to help, but you barely have enough strength to manage your own burden. A supervisor appears and begins shouting at the collapsed worker, demanding that he resume his duties. The man tries to stand but sways dangerously, clearly on the verge of complete collapse. You force yourself to look away and continue climbing, knowing that stopping to help would likely result in your own downfall. At the wall, you barely manage to deposit your bricks before your legs give out entirely. You sink to the ground in whatever shade you can find, your back against the stone structure you've spent the day building. Your breathing is so labored that you wonder if your lungs might simply refuse to continue working. The heat radiating from the stone surfaces creates an environment like the inside of a kiln. Even in shade, the temperature feels unbearable. Sweat pours from your body in streams, taking with it precious salt and minerals that your system desperately needs to function. Your water container is now nearly empty, perhaps 1 or 2 small sips remaining. You know you should save it, but your body's need for fluid overrides rational planning. You drink what remains, feeling the inadequate amount of liquid disappear almost immediately into your dehydrated tissues. The walk back to the brick pile becomes an exercise in pure determination. Your legs feel like they belong to someone else, responding slowly and uncertainly to your commands. Twice you have to stop and steady yourself against rocks when dizziness threatens to topple you entirely. The other workers are in similar or worse condition. You see men stumbling under loads that would have been manageable in the morning, their movements erratic and desperate. The collective pace of work has slowed to barely more than a crawl, though the supervisors continue to patrol and demand continued effort. At the brick pile, you sit down hard, your body simply refusing to remain upright any longer. The supervisor approaches, and you force yourself to begin loading bricks despite the way your hands shake and fumble with the rough surfaces. Your movements are clumsy and inefficient, but you're moving, and that seems sufficient to avoid immediate punishment. This load feels like it's made of solid iron. Your arms can barely support the weight, and you have to make several attempts before finding a grip that feels even marginally secure. The rough edges of the bricks dig into your palms, adding fresh cuts to the collection of wounds that mark your hands. The climb up the slope becomes a nightmare of heat and exhaustion. Each step requires enormous conscious effort, and your breathing sounds desperate and ragged in your own ears. The sun beats down mercilessly, and you can feel your skin burning despite the protection of your clothing. You have to stop 4 times during this climb, each pause longer than the last. Your vision blurs and clears repeatedly, and at one point you're not entirely sure where you are or what you're doing. Only the weight of the bricks in your arms anchors you to the present moment. Other workers pass you during your stops, their own movements slow and unsteady. No one offers help or encouragement. Everyone is too focused on their own survival to spare energy for others. This isolation adds another layer of difficulty to work that was already almost unbearable. At the wall, you manage to deposit your load but then collapse completely, unable to take another step. The shade provides minimal relief from heat that seems to come from all directions. Your breathing is so rapid and shallow that you worry you might pass out entirely. Minutes pass before you can even attempt to stand. Your body feels completely drained, as if every resource has been consumed by the morning and afternoon's labor. When you finally do rise, your legs shake so violently that you have to lean against the wall for support. The return to the brick pile is accomplished through pure mechanical habit. Your conscious mind has largely disconnected from the immediate reality of walking and breathing. You exist in a strange state between waking and unconsciousness, guided by reflexes learned through repetition. But just as you reach the bottom of the slope, the sound you've been desperately hoping for echoes across the work site. The horn signaling the end of the day's labor, blown by a guard whose own face shows the strain of supervising work in these conditions. The relief that floods through your body is so intense it's almost painful. Your legs, which had been carrying you through pure determination, suddenly feel like they might collapse entirely. Around you, other workers are stopping where they stand, setting down their loads with expressions of profound gratitude. The walk to the evening rest area is slow and careful. Bodies pushed beyond their limits move with extreme caution, everyone aware that a fall or injury now could have serious consequences. The path that seemed familiar this morning now feels foreign and treacherous. You reach the shade structures erected for the evening meal and sink to the ground with a gratitude so deep it feels like prayer. Your back against a wooden post, legs stretched out in front of you, you allow yourself to simply exist without the burden of carrying or climbing. The shade feels miraculous after hours in the direct sun. The temperature drops immediately, and you can feel your overheated body beginning the slow process of cooling. Your breathing gradually slows from the desperate gasping of extreme exertion to something approaching normal rhythm. Water appears, carried by workers whose job it is to maintain the labor force. You drink deeply, feeling the liquid flow through tissues that have been crying out for hydration. The water is warm and tastes of clay and metal, but it might as well be the finest wine for the relief it provides. You drink until your stomach feels distended, then drink more. Your body absorbs the fluid desperately, and you can almost feel your blood thinning from the concentrated consistency it had reached during the hottest part of the day. Food follows the water. Bowls of millet porridge with small pieces of dried vegetables, the same simple fare provided at midday but now tasting extraordinary to your depleted system. You eat slowly, savoring each bite, feeling a small measure of strength begin to return to your exhausted muscles. Around you, other workers eat in exhausted silence. Faces are sunburned and drawn with fatigue, clothes soaked with sweat and stained with salt and dust. Everyone bears the marks of a day that pushed human endurance to its absolute limits. The evening air begins to cool as the sun starts its descent toward the western mountains. The change is subtle at first, but after hours of crushing heat, even the slightest reduction in temperature feels significant. You can sense your body beginning to recover, though you know full recovery will require many hours of rest. Your hands throb with a pain that's both sharp and deep. The combination of abrasions, cuts, and burns has created wounds that will take days to heal properly. You examine them in the dim light, noting the places where skin has been worn away entirely and others where blisters have formed and broken. But your hands still work. They still grip and lift and carry. Damage that would disable someone unaccustomed to manual labor is simply part of the reality of this work. You accept the pain as you accept the heat and the exhaustion, as conditions that must be endured rather than problems that can be solved. As the sun continues to descend, the quality of light begins to change. The harsh, white glare of midday gives way to softer tones that don't assault your eyes. For the first time since dawn, you can look around without squinting or shielding your face. The wall stretches away in both directions, following the natural contours of the mountain ridge. In the evening light, you can see the progress made today, the accumulated result of hundreds of individual loads carried by dozens of workers. The advance seems small compared to the effort expended, but it's real and measurable. You think about tomorrow, knowing it will bring the same routine of loading and carrying and climbing. Your body will wake stiff and sore, and the day will gradually wear you down until evening brings another temporary reprieve. This cycle will continue for weeks or months, until the section is complete or until your body can no longer perform the work. But these thoughts come without despair. This is simply the reality of your situation, as unchangeable as the mountains themselves. You've learned to find satisfaction in smaller things. The taste of water after thirst, the relief of shade after sun, the simple act of sitting still after hours of constant motion. The evening meal continues, supplemented by additional portions for those who managed to maintain their work pace throughout the afternoon. You qualify for this extra ration, though you're not sure how. Perhaps your body's automatic performance of familiar motions created an illusion of competence even when your conscious mind was barely functioning. As darkness begins to fall, torches are lit around the rest area. The flickering light creates dancing shadows on the faces of your fellow workers, giving everyone a ghostly appearance. The day's heat still radiates from the stone surfaces around you, but the air is finally beginning to cool. Your breathing has returned to normal, and your heart rate has slowed from the frantic pace it maintained during the hottest part of the day. The simple act of sitting still feels luxurious beyond description. Every muscle in your body aches, but the aching is manageable now, no longer the sharp agony of extreme exertion. Water continues to be available, and you drink regularly, feeling your body slowly rehydrating. The headache that had been building during the afternoon begins to recede, and your vision clears as proper fluid balance is restored to your system. Some of the workers begin quiet conversations, the first social interaction of the day. Voices are hoarse from breathing dust and dry air, and most comments are brief observations about the work or the weather. No one has energy for extended discussion, but the simple human contact seems to help restore morale. You listen to the conversations without participating much. Your throat feels raw, and speaking requires energy you'd rather conserve. But hearing the familiar cadences of human speech, the shared acknowledgement of hardship endured, provides its own form of comfort. As full darkness approaches, preparations begin for the night's rest. Workers begin to disperse toward their sleeping areas, moving slowly and carefully in the flickering torchlight. The day's work is finally, completely finished, and the prospect of horizontal rest becomes the most appealing thing imaginable. You make your way to your sleeping area, a section of relatively flat ground where straw mats are laid out in neat rows. The mat that awaits you is thin and compressed, offering minimal cushioning from the rocky ground beneath, but it represents luxury compared to the stone surfaces you've been climbing all day. You sit on your mat and slowly remove your cloth shoes, examining your feet by the dim light of nearby torches. Like your hands, they show the accumulated damage of the day's work. Blisters have formed where the shoes rubbed against sweat-softened skin, and small cuts mark places where sharp stones penetrated the thin soles. But your feet, like your hands, still function. They still support your weight and carry you where you need to go. The damage is significant but not disabling, part of the ongoing conversation between your body and the demands placed upon it. You lie back on the straw mat, feeling every rock and irregularity in the ground beneath. After hours of constant motion, the simple act of being horizontal feels miraculous. Your spine begins to decompress, relieving pressure that has been building throughout the day. The night air continues to cool, though the stone surfaces around you still radiate stored heat from the day's sun. You can hear the quiet sounds of other workers settling in for the night. Soft groans as bodies adjust to rest, the rustle of straw as people find comfortable positions, occasional coughs as dust is cleared from throats and lungs. Above you, stars begin to appear in the darkening sky. The same stars that have watched over this construction for years, that will continue to shine long after the wall is complete and the workers have returned to their villages or moved on to other projects. Their distant light provides perspective on the day's struggles, a reminder of larger contexts and longer timeframes. Your body begins the slow process of recovery that will occupy the night hours. Muscles that have been tensed and working for 12 hours start to relax, though they'll be stiff and sore by morning. Your skin, burned and abraded by sun and stone, begins its own healing process, though it will be days before the worst damage fully repairs itself. The sounds of the construction site gradually fade as workers settle into sleep. Guards maintain their patrols, but their footsteps become less frequent and more distant. The mountain itself seems to settle into quiet, the daytime cacophony of hammers and voices giving way to natural sounds. Wind moving through stone passages, the distant call of night birds, the subtle creaking and settling of wooden scaffolding. You close your eyes and feel consciousness beginning to ebb. The pain in your hands and feet remains, a dull throbbing that will probably persist through the night. But it's manageable now, no longer the sharp agony that accompanied each grip and step during the day's work. Sleep approaches gradually, like water slowly filling a container. Your breathing deepens and slows, matching the rhythm of rest rather than the desperate pace of labor. Your heart rate continues to decrease, finally freed from the demands of pumping blood through an overheated, overworked body. The last thing you're aware of is the wind moving across the stone surfaces of the wall, creating a subtle sound that speaks of permanence and endurance. This structure you've spent the day building will stand for centuries, long after your individual contribution has been forgotten. But for now, in this moment, you're part of something larger than yourself, something that will outlast the aches and exhaustion of any single day. The straw beneath you rustles softly as you shift into your final sleeping position. Tomorrow will bring another day identical to this one. The same loads to carry, the same slopes to climb, the same heat to endure. But tomorrow is hours away, separated from this moment by the blessed interval of sleep. Your breathing becomes deep and regular, the sound mixing with similar rhythms from workers on nearby mats. The collective respiration of exhausted bodies creates a soft susurrus that blends with the night wind, a human harmony that speaks of shared struggle and mutual endurance. Somewhere in the distance, a guard's footsteps echo off stone walls, a reminder that security and supervision continue even during rest hours. But the sound is reassuring rather than threatening now, a sign that order is maintained and that morning will bring its familiar, if difficult, routine. The stars overhead wheel slowly in their ancient patterns, marking time on a scale that makes individual human effort seem both insignificant and precious. The wall growing beneath them represents the accumulated labor of thousands of individuals, each contributing their small portion to something vast and enduring. Your consciousness fades gradually, like a flame slowly consuming its fuel. The day's memories become distant and dreamlike. The weight of bricks in your arms, the burning of sun on your shoulders, the blessed relief of shade and water. These experiences settle into your body's memory, joining the accumulated knowledge of previous days and preparing for tomorrow's repetition. Sleep finally claims you completely, bringing rest to muscles that have earned it through 12 hours of grinding labor. Your breathing becomes barely audible, lost in the collective whisper of exhausted workers finding temporary peace in the mountain darkness. The night settles over the construction site like a vast, gentle hand. Work that will resume with tomorrow's dawn is suspended in the darkness, allowing both workers and structure to rest in the cool mountain air. The wall stands incomplete but growing, testament to human persistence in the face of seemingly impossible challenges. Wind moves through the stone corridors and wooden scaffolding, creating subtle music that speaks of patience and endurance. The sound carries across sleeping workers, mixing with their quiet breathing to create a lullaby of shared struggle and common purpose. In this darkness, with consciousness faded and bodies at rest, the individual becomes part of something larger. The wall, the mountain, the sleeping workers, the watching stars, all connected in the ancient human story of building something permanent from temporary effort, of creating meaning through repetition, of finding purpose in the simple act of carrying stone up impossible slopes, one brick at a time.